Well, hey everybody, this is Paul Lytle, and you are tuned in to The Art of the Ages. This is a writing podcast. We are in episode 2, and I kind of wanted to do, all right, we're gonna start delving into the whys of why we write here pretty quickly. Probably next episode, unless I think of a different topic beforehand. But I did want to kind of get us going with just a little bit more practicality, and this is the right time to do it. So if you are listening as we are broadcasting, uploading, releasing these episodes for the first time, then it is the month of November. Now that's notable in the life of a writer because this is National Novel Writing Month. Now, for those who don't know, National Novel Writing Month is like this yearly organized event effort where writers are encouraged to try to write a 50,000 word novel in a single month from November 1st to the 30th. There's a website. It's NaNoWriMo.org, right? Yeah. NaNoWriMo. So the first syllable of National Novel Writing Month.org. Google it, we'll put the link. Look, it's too late to join this year if you haven't. I guess it's not too late, but that's a lot of writing. We're already a week into the month, then that's a lot of writing. If you do write every day, you are needing to hit about 1,667 words a day. Now, I have not been one, and that's over 30 days. So I have not been one to write on Sunday. And so if I were to take part this year, it would be 1,923 words a day, excluding Sundays. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I love National Novel Writing Month for certain reasons, and for other reasons it frustrates me. And I'll be perfectly if this thing came around many years to decades back in my life, I would be the king of this. All right, like when I was in college, that time period in my life, when I didn't have kids, when I didn't have a family, I would be all over that. I have tried to do this, and I did it. It was 2 years ago. I did it 2 years ago, and a crisis struck at work. I was on a good pace for 10 days, and a crisis struck at work, and it just sucked all my time. And when you're on kind of that schedule that really is pretty tight because you have kids, because you have a family, a crisis at work just kind of destroys you. And so I failed. In the last 2 years, I haven't participated just because I knew it's like, this is not the year for it. That's a lot of words. And so this is the thing that I don't always like about it, is that it's, depending on how fast you write, and even for those of us who are fast writers, and I am a fast writer, that's a big chunk. It's a very big chunk. What do I like about it, though? What I like about it is that the effort to put the writer on a schedule. Now we've got this, and I really think that this was developed during our teenage poetry years. This kind of romantic notion of the writer, that they kind of wander to and fro and drink wine, and when the spirit moves, they put pen to paper and make everything flow, and it's wonderful, and it's just, with a swirl, they're done. It is perfect. And if you remember all the crap we wrote in our high school poetry days. It was garbage. It was garbage. Excuse me for those on video. I'm getting over the flu, so this is probably not the best time to be doing a podcast where I talk a lot, but this is what we're dealing with. And so that's not really the best way to approach writing. And then you get into questions of like, okay, what if the spirit's not moving? And then you start getting these notions of like writer's block, which, by the way, if you're in any other position, right, anywhere else, and like, well, I can't do my job today because the spirit isn't moving, you get run out of town. So we make excuses for that, like, well, this is a creative endeavor, and all right, that's fine. There's a certain degree of creativity in most of the jobs that we do, especially jobs that require communication, and we're kind of just expected to do it. And here's the thing about it: when we do it, it becomes more natural. When we practice, we get better at it, and we get more consistent at it. Right? You ask any music teacher who's teaching a different instrument, and you know those students, because I've taught a few people guitar before, and those students who didn't practice, and they're just hoping that the spirit's going to move when the teacher's in the room. The spirit doesn't. You can tell. And we writers think that, this doesn't apply to us somehow, but it absolutely does. Most of the truly great authors, especially ones that were very consistent writing, put themselves on a schedule. And I happened upon this website. I thought this might be fun to look at. This is at the Writers' Right website, which is writersright.co.za. And for those who are watching on the YouTube, you're going to be able to see this right here. And they put this in very, very tiny font, but that's okay. Let's see if we can zoom in maybe just a little bit. It's somewhat helpful. So this is some of the people who, professional writers, that names we know, on their schedule, and some of the quotes from them. So, you have like, and a lot of these, being professional writers, are doing more than that 1667 per day. Of course, very few of these had, another job. So Anne Rice is 3,000 words a day. Some of them are quite a bit lower. Ernest Hemingway was 500. And I know for a fact, like Ernest Hemingway, he's got this reputation of like being like this, kind of this drunk genius. But he was a reporter, and he took his writing very seriously. He'd get drunk later in the day, but he wrote in the morning and stuff. Graham Greene, also 500. Just going through. Crichton at 10,000. Now I read once, and I have no idea where I got this was ages ago. That I read that like when Crichton wrote a book, he would like rent this hotel room. It was like get away from everything, and all he just set up his thing, and he'd have the same meal every day, for however long it took to write the thing, and he would just churn out this first draft like in a ridiculous short amount of time, and then he would rewrite. Now, that's part of knowing what kind of writing style you have. And we're going to get into that. Not in this episode, but we're going to get to that. And so that's totally realistic. I've done that. I did it once. Just once. It took me all day. But it was at the end of a book that I was writing. It was like the last couple of chapters, really at the climax where things were getting really excited. And from morning to night, I wrote. And I hit, I think, 11,000 words that day. It's the only time I've ever gotten anywhere close to that. Shelby Foote is 500. Stephen King, 2,000. About 10 pages a day. So the point of that is that, hey, yes, we have these schedules. We have this pattern. And And it took me a while to get out of that romantic, high school mentality. It's like, when I feel it, I must go and I must write, and instead to write. And I have to say, like, when I first started doing that, it was hard. It was really hard. It was difficult, and I felt like the stuff I was writing was garbage. But I was keeping in mind something I read. I read from Tracy Hickman, who is this fantasy author and Dungeons and Dragons creator, module creator. And I'm not going to get this quote right, but he was saying that, basically that the stuff can be fixed. The stuff can, this is the point of editing, is this stuff can be fixed, but get it on paper. And as you're building these habits, then it's going to get easier. But if it's not working and it's just not completely making sense, doesn't matter. Put it down. We'll fix it later. And that helped me out a lot. And the first little while, like, there was a lot of stuff that I was looking back and like, oh, we're gonna have to fix that later. But there was a ton of stuff that, as I got better at it, as I got more practiced at it, the more natural it became. And it was like practicing the saxophone or the guitar, where I was able to start playing, start writing well sooner. I was able to really get into it. I was able to get into that zone right away. It was like a job. And those ideas of, like, waiting on the muse and concepts like writer's block were soon kind of fading away from me. And I was starting to realize that I can sit, given the general healthiness and appropriate amounts of sleep, that I can sit down and I can write. And that's important. That's important, that if you're going to finish long works, this is something that you're going to have to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I need to do this many chapters per day. Look, if you have a weird schedule, you have a weird schedule. I dig it. I actually just got out of a super weird schedule, and I would never be able to, like, set a daily goal for myself like that. But you're going to have to be able to sit down and write. And in my experience, the best way to do that is to set a schedule for yourself, to write it down. This is how many words I've got to put down on the page today. And that's one reason I absolutely love National Novel Writing Month. I wish the goal was not so high, because that is for nearly any writer with a family or with a job, that's an exceedingly high goal. But the act of putting a certain number of words on a page every single day is remarkably healthy for a writer. And it's something that I very much encourage all of us, that if we're going to take this seriously, to make sure that we are scheduling out time for ourselves to write, and we are holding ourselves accountable for that time. So, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be here every single week. A lot of weeks we're going to have, like this week, just kind of some practical advice on writing. And some weeks we're going to be delving much deeper into why we do the things we do and why it's important. And I think that's going to help us just as much. So please join me next week. And until then, we'll see you then.